High Counselor Nixis stood before the Galactic Security Council, her crystalline form pulsing with troubled colors as she delivered the most disturbing report of her 300-year career. The massive chamber, carved from living crystal deep within the core of Centauri Prime, amplified her every word. Distinguished members of the Council, I stand before you with grave news. Our 7th observation team on Sol 3, Earth, has vanished without a trace. Like the others, their final transmission contained no signs of distress, no indication of danger. They simply stopped reporting. The assembled representatives of 50 advanced civilizations stirred uneasily. Counselor Thex, his holographic form shimmering with concern, spoke first. That brings the total to 15 teams in the past Earth decade. Nearly 100 of our best field agents, gone. How is this possible? Nixis projected the last known images from the missing team. They showed ordinary human scenes, a busy street in Tokyo, a cafe in Paris, a market in Mumbai. Nothing to suggest the fate that awaited the observers. Our latest team was led by Commander Vex 12, one of our most experienced field operators. Their final transmission was peculiar. She activated the recording. Base, you won't believe what these humans have created. They call it music. It's beyond description. And their food. They don't just consume for sustenance, they create experiences. Wait until you try something called tiramisu. We're extending our observation period by the transmission ended abruptly. That was 3 Earth months ago, Nixis continued. No distress beacon. No emergency protocols activated. They simply vanished, like all the others. First speaker Rylix, eldest of the council, leaned forward. Could the humans have detected them? Their technology is primitive by our standards, but perhaps. Impossible, Nixis replied. Our biological camouflage is perfect. Our agents can replicate human form down to the cellular level. No, something else is happening here. She brought up a new hologram, showing a timeline of disappearances. We've noticed a pattern. Each team maintains perfect protocol for approximately 3 Earth weeks. Then their reports become irregular. They start using human expressions, displaying emotional responses, requesting extended observation periods. Shortly after, we lose them completely. The chamber erupted in concerned murmurs. Emotional contamination was supposed to be impossible. Their agents underwent extensive psychological conditioning. There's more, Nixis continued, her crystalline form darkening. We've intercepted what appears to be human social media content showing some of our missing agents. They're living among humans. Lieutenant Kix 7 appears to be operating something called a food truck in Portland. Agent Mira 15 is teaching yoga in Bali. They show no signs of distress or coercion. They've gone native? Thex asked incredulously. It appears so. But what's truly baffling is that their genetic structure remains unchanged. They've chosen this. Somehow, human culture is more persuasive than any technology we've encountered. First speaker Rylix raised all 4 hands for silence. This is unprecedented. Humanity was supposed to be a primitive species, barely worth observing. Instead, they've managed to convert our best agents without even realizing it. The question before us now is, do we classify Earth as a level 1 threat? Nixis hesitated, then made a decision that would change galactic history. Before we do, I request permission for one final mission. Let me send in Agent Dax 5, our most emotionally controlled operative. She's undergone triple the standard psychological conditioning. If anyone can resist human influence. The risk is too high, Thex interrupted. The reward is higher, Nixis countered. Whatever humanity possesses, this ability to transform our agents without technology, without coercion, it could revolutionize our understanding of consciousness itself. The council chambers fell silent as the members communicated telepathically, weighing the risks and benefits. Finally, first speaker Rylix nodded. Permission granted, but with conditions. Agent Dax 5 will have constant neural monitoring. At the first sign of emotional contamination, we initiate emergency extraction. And Nixus, if we lose this agent too, Earth will be quarantined. Permanently. As Nixus left the chamber, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something fundamental about humanity. Whatever it was, she hoped Agent Dax 5 would discover it before it was too late. In her quarters, Agent Dax 5 reviewed her mission parameters with characteristic precision. Her metallic skin shifted seamlessly into human form as she practiced her cover identity, Diane Foster, corporate consultant relocating to Seattle. Everything was perfect, measured, controlled. She had no way of knowing that in exactly 23 days, she would discover something that would change everything, not just for her, but for both civilizations. The mission to understand humanity's strange power was about to begin. Agent Dax 5 had prepared for every possible threat on Earth, except for the power of a simple cup of coffee. 20 days into her mission, she sat in her meticulously organized Seattle apartment, composing her daily report to command. Her fingers hovered over the quantum communicator as she struggled to explain her latest observations. Field Report, Day 20. Humans continue to display inexplicable behaviors. They gather in small groups at establishments called coffee shops, consuming a bitter stimulant beverage while engaging in what they call catching up. The efficiency loss is staggering, yet they persist. More concerning, I find myself curious about this ritual. She paused, debating whether to include her next observation. Honesty won out. Additional note, I have accepted an invitation to what humans call board game night with colleagues from the consulting firm. This seems optimal for observation purposes, though Commander Nixus's warnings about social engagement protocols echo in my memory. The response from Command was immediate, caution advised. Remember Vex 12. Maintain emotional distance. But maintaining distance was becoming increasingly difficult. Her neighbor, Thomas Reeves, a local musician, had an inexplicable habit of checking if she had eaten whenever he saw her. "Can't let you survive on takeout alone," he'd say, appearing at her door with something he'd cooked. Yesterday it was lasagna, and Dax 5 had discovered her taste receptors responding in ways her training hadn't prepared her for. The board game night proved even more challenging. Gathered around a table with 5 humans, playing something called Pandemic, ironically working together to save their own species from disease, Dax 5 found herself experiencing unprecedented sensations. "We need to find a cure before it spreads to Asia," said Juniper, a graphic designer with vibrant purple hair. Diane, you're the researcher. What do you think?" The slip nearly made Dax 5's holographic disguise flicker, but the humans were too focused on the game to notice. What truly alarmed her was her own response. She was enjoying herself. The collaborative problem-solving, the shared excitement when they prevented an outbreak, the genuine disappointment when they failed, it all felt meaningful. Later that night, her report to Command was shorter than usual. Humans appear to derive significant satisfaction from simulated crisis resolution in group settings. Further investigation required. She didn't mention how she'd agreed to host the next game night. By day 23, the warning signs were becoming clearer. She caught herself humming. A melody Thomas had been practicing. She'd started looking forward to her morning coffee ritual at the local cafe, where the barista, Rose, always remembered her usual order. Worse still, she'd begun to understand human jokes. During her mandatory psychiatric evaluation, the council's chief psychologist noted concerning changes in her neural patterns. "Agent Dax 5, your emotional suppression indicators are showing irregularities. Are you maintaining proper distance from the subjects?" "Absolutely," she replied, ignoring the fact that she'd spent the previous evening helping Thomas compose a song, fascinated by how humans could transform mathematical sound patterns into something that made her feel things. But the real crisis point came during a routine observation at Pike Place Market. A street performer was playing something called a violin, and the music, there was no other way to describe it, reached past her carefully constructed barriers and touched something deep within her synthetic soul. Standing there, watching humans go about their daily lives, Dax 5 had an epiphany that would horrify the Council. These creatures weren't primitive at all. They had mastered something far more powerful than faster-than-light travel or quantum computing. They had mastered connection. That evening, she found herself at Thomas's door, holding the container from his lasagna. Would you teach me how to make this? His smile was warm, genuine. Better idea, let's create your own recipe. Something uniquely yours. As she followed him into his kitchen, Dax 5 sent what would be her final official report to command. Warning, humanity's true power identified. They don't convert through force or technology. They transform through. She hesitated, then added the word that would send the Council into panic mode: love. She turned off her communicator, knowing that somewhere in the Galactic Council chambers, alarms were blaring. Emergency extraction protocols would be initiated. But for the first time in her existence, Agent Dax 5, now just Diane, didn't care. She had dinner to make, a song to finish composing, and a board game night to host tomorrow. The mystery of the missing agents wasn't a mystery at all. They hadn't vanished, they'd found home. Would you like me to continue with Part 3? It will focus on the Galactic Council's desperate investigation into what they now fear might be humanity's most powerful weapon, their capacity for genuine connection and acceptance. Chief Investigator Roth 7 had never failed a mission in 3 centuries of service. Standing in the rain outside a small Portland food truck, watching former Lieutenant Kix 7 cheerfully serve something called fusion tacos to a line of eager humans, she wondered if that record was about to change. Order up. Kix 7, now known as Kevin, called out, his precisely engineered universal translator now colored with distinctly human Portland inflections. Yo, Stephanie, got your kimchi bulgogi taco with extra sesame sauce. Roth 7's advanced sensors detected no signs of coercion, no evidence of human manipulation technology, not even traces of chemical influence. Just happiness. Genuine, unmanufactured happiness. This is Field Investigator Roth 7, she subvocalized to her neural recorder. Subject Kix 7 appears to have completely integrated into human society. Most disturbing is the apparent satisfaction derived from engaging in manual food preparation, a task easily automated on any civilized world. She stepped into line, her human disguise perfect down to the trendy rain jacket and carefully curated look of mild impatience. The Council had authorized direct contact, desperate for answers after Agent Dax 5's disturbing final report. Welcome to K's Cosmic Cuisine. Kix 7 beamed at her. Then his expression flickered, just for a nanosecond, with recognition. But instead of fear or shame, his smile grew warmer. First time here? You've got to try the Andromeda Special. The name choice was hardly subtle. Roth 7 maintained her cover. What's in it? A little bit of Earth, a little bit of elsewhere. He winked. Trust me. That word, trust, it triggered something in Roth 7's memory banks. Humans used it constantly, traded it like currency, built entire relationships on this intangible concept. Against her better judgment, she nodded. One Andromeda Special. While preparing the food, Kix 7 chatted easily with his human employees, laughed at their jokes, moved with a fluidity that came from genuine comfort rather than programmed adaptation. He was, Roth 7 realized with growing unease, truly happy here. The food, when it arrived, presented another problem. Her sensors indicated nothing unusual, just carefully prepared Earth ingredients. But the combination of flavors, the artistry of presentation, the obvious care in preparation, it was affecting her in ways she couldn't quantify. "Good, right?" Kix 7 asked, and there was something in his expression, a knowing look that said, "I understand why you're here, and soon you will too." Later that evening, she followed him to what humans called a neighborhood potluck. Her mission parameters allowed for surveillance, but nothing could have prepared her for what she witnessed. In a small community garden, surrounded by twinkling lights, humans and no fewer than 7 of their missing agents gathered. They shared food, stories, laughter. A human child sat in former Agent Mira 15's lap, both of them making flower crowns. Agent Vex 12, their most decorated field operative, was teaching humans how to ferment vegetables while his human partner wrapped an arm casually around his waist. Field report, Priority 1, Roth 7 transmitted. The situation is more severe than anticipated. Subjects appear to have formed genuine emotional bonds with humans. They're not just integrating into human society, they're building families. The response from command was immediate: initiate emergency extraction of all compromised agents. But as she watched Kix 7 explain the secret of his sauce to an elderly human woman who called him sweetheart, Roth 7 did something unprecedented in her career. She hesitated. Request clarification, she sent back. Define compromised. Because there, in that garden, she was witnessing something that defied every parameter of her mission. The missing agents weren't compromised, they were transformed. They had discovered something that centuries of galactic civilization had somehow missed. The humans had mastered something beyond technology, beyond science. They had perfected the art of belonging. As the evening progressed, Roth 7 found herself accepting a plate of what someone called Aunt Betty's secret recipe potato salad. She logged it as gathering intelligence. She told herself the warmth in her engineered chest was just sensor malfunction when a small human child offered her a slightly crushed daisy. Her final report of the evening contained a warning that would send the council into chaos: exercise extreme caution. Human capacity for acceptance and community appears to be contagious. Requesting immediate. She paused, realizing she was smiling at a joke she'd overheard: immediate temporary extension of observation period. In the council chambers, First Speaker Rylix read the report with growing alarm. They had just lost their best investigator to the very phenomenon she was supposed to be studying. It was time for the final option: direct intervention. First Speaker Rylix's arrival on Earth was unprecedented. In 10,000 years, no council leader had ever conducted a field investigation personally. But as their ship entered Earth's atmosphere under perfect cloaking, they knew this crisis demanded extreme measures. Status report, Rylix commanded, their crystalline form shifting seamlessly into human appearance, an elegant older woman with silver hair and piercing eyes. 17 more agents have gone dark in the past week alone, their aide reported. And Chief Investigator Roth 7. She's opened a restaurant with Kix 7. They're calling it Starlight Fusion. Rylix suppressed a shudder. Location of Agent Dax 5? Seattle, sir. She's. The aide hesitated. She's giving a concert tonight. Apparently, she's learned to play something called a cello. The concert hall was packed when Rylix arrived. They had chosen this as their first investigation point because Dax 5 had been their most psychologically fortified agent. Understanding her transformation was key to containing this epidemic. The lights dimmed, and Dax 5, now Diane, appeared on stage with her human companion Thomas. The music they created together was. Rylix felt their carefully maintained neural pathways shift. This was more than sound. It was mathematics made emotion, physics transformed into feeling. Remarkable adaptation of human cultural expression, Rylix muttered into their recorder, trying to maintain scientific detachment. But when the duo began their second piece, something changed in the room. Humans around them began to weep, smile, hold hands. The air itself seemed charged with an energy their sensors couldn't quantify. After the performance, Rylix approached Dax 5 directly. Their former agent showed no surprise at seeing them. "First speaker," she said warmly, still holding her cello. "Would you like to join us for dinner? Thomas makes an amazing risotto." "Agent Dax 5, you've violated every protocol dash." "Diane," she corrected gently. "My name is Diane now. And I haven't violated protocols, I've evolved beyond them." "We all have." Thomas appeared beside her, completely unaware he was in the presence of two alien beings. "Friends of yours, honey?" "Great. I made plenty. Music always makes me cook too much." Before Rylix could respond, they found themselves in a cozy apartment, watching their former top agent laugh in a kitchen with a human, making something called tiramisu for dessert. The domesticity of it all was somehow more alien than any xenobiology they'd ever encountered. "They don't even know what we are," Rylix said quietly, as Thomas stepped away to take a call. "No," Diane agreed. "But they know who we are. That's what we never understood, first speaker. Humans don't just observe and categorize like we do. They connect. They transform strangers into family through nothing but choice and love. It's a security risk dash." "It's a gift," Diane interrupted. "One the galaxy desperately needs." "When was the last time you felt truly connected to anyone, first speaker? When did any of us?" The question struck Rylix like a quantum blast. In their thousands of years of existence, pursuing knowledge and order across the galaxy. Their thoughts were interrupted as more guests arrived, Roth, 7 and Kix, 7 bringing wine, Mira, 15 with her human family, including the child who called her Mama. Vex, 12 arguing playfully with his partner about the best way to grill vegetables. Rylix watched in fascination as their most disciplined agents moved through the space with natural ease, their joy unmistakably genuine. The humans welcomed everyone, shared food and stories, created connections that defied rational explanation. As the evening progressed, Rylix found their carefully constructed barriers weakening. They accepted a glass of wine, tasted the risotto, listened to stories that made them laugh despite themselves. Their final report to the council that night was brief: "The situation is more complex than anticipated. Humanity's influence appears to be beneficial. Requesting extended observation period for personal research." They didn't mention that they had accepted an invitation to something called a Sunday brunch, or that they were curious about these cooking lessons Kix 7 had offered. In the end, perhaps this wasn't a crisis to be contained, but a revolution to be embraced. "Would you like me to continue with the final part? Part 5 will bring everything together, showing how this discovery changes both human and galactic society forever." The emergency session of the Galactic Council looked very different from the ones that had come before. For one thing, it was being held in a community center in Seattle, with humans and aliens sharing space over what first speaker Rylix had learned to call potluck dishes. 6 months had passed since Rylix's investigation began. Now, they stood before representatives of both civilizations, their crystalline form undisguised, and prepared to change the course of galactic history. "For millennia," Rylix began, "we prided ourselves on our advancement. We measured civilization by technological achievement, by mastery over the physical universe. We were wrong." The assembled crowd, a mix of council members, former agents, and their human families, listened intently. In the back, Diane played soft cello music while Thomas accompanied her on guitar. "Humanity hasn't just changed our agents. They've revealed a blind spot in our entire civilization. We mastered space travel but forgot how to truly connect. We conquered distance but lost touch with closeness." Roth, 7, now Rachel, stood up. Her restaurant had become a bridge between worlds, a place where humans and aliens could share meals and stories openly. "We came to study them," she said, "but they taught us instead. They showed us that family isn't about genetic sequences or shared origins, it's about choice." Around the room, the evidence was undeniable. Former Agent Mira, 15, cradled her sleeping human daughter. Vex, 12, and his husband were sharing their famous fusion appetizers. Kick 7's food truck now had a sign that proudly read, "Intergalactic Cuisine." No, really. Therefore, Rylix continued, "I propose something unprecedented. Not observation, not study, but exchange. Open contact. Cultural integration." The council members stirred uneasily. "The risks one began. Are nothing compared to the rewards," Rylix interrupted, surprising themselves with this very human directness. "Look around this room. Every compromised agent has discovered something we lost generations ago, the ability to form genuine connections, to build families from strangers, to create communities that transcend species." Thomas raised his hand, still getting used to addressing interstellar councils. Quick question, does this mean I can finally tell my mom that Diane's actually from another planet? Because honestly, it would explain why she loved my experimental fusion tacos." The laughter that rippled through the room, human and alien alike, was proof of Rylix's point. "We came to study humanity's weaknesses," Rylix said, "and instead discovered their greatest strength. They don't need advanced technology to transform others. They do it with acceptance, with love, with the simple act of sharing a meal or a song." The formal declaration that followed was perhaps the most unusual in galactic history. Earth was officially classified not as a threat, but as a teacher. The missing agents weren't listed as compromised, but as pioneers. And in the years that followed, something remarkable happened. Galactic civilization began to change. Alien tourists started visiting Earth not to study humans, but to learn from them. Interspecies families became common. Cultural exchange programs flourished. The Seattle Community Center became the first of many bridge centers across Earth, where humans and aliens could meet openly, share stories, cook meals, make music, and build connections. One evening, as Rylix sat in Diane and Thomas's backyard during their weekly barbecue, watching former agents and humans mingling under string lights, they received a message from the council. "Should we recall our remaining observation teams from Earth?" Rylix looked around at the scene before them, at the community they'd become part of, at the families that had formed across species barriers, at the love that had proved more powerful than any technology. Their response was simple, negative. Recommend instead increasing cultural exchange programs. And send more cooking supplies. Humans are teaching us something called baking next week. They signed off and accepted a plate of Thomas's latest experiment in human-alien fusion cuisine. Around them, music played, children, both human and alien, chased fireflies, and conversations flowed in multiple languages and forms of communication. The great galactic mystery had been solved. The missing agents hadn't disappeared, they'd found their way home. And in doing so, they'd helped two civilizations discover that the greatest advancement wasn't conquering the stars, but learning how to share them. As the evening stars appeared above Seattle, Diane began playing her cello, the music reaching across space and species, proving once again that some things in the universe needed no translation at all. The end.